Captain Rena stood in the center of her ship's bridge, her crystal-like body catching the soft blue light from the control panels. Her 6 arms moved gracefully as she checked the readings on the screens around her. The research ship Harmonies. Light had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, looking for new planets and life forms to study. The Villani people were peaceful explorers. They had crystal bodies that could bend light, making them look like living diamonds. Rena had been captain for over 20 years, and she loved discovering new things in the galaxy. Her crew was small but skilled, just 12 scientists who shared her love for learning about the universe. "Captain," called out Science Officer Keth from his station. His voice had the musical quality that all Villani possessed. "I am picking up something strange on the long-range sensors." Rena glided over to Keith's workstation. Her people did not walk like other species. They moved by floating just above the ground, their crystal bodies reflecting light in beautiful patterns. "What kind of reading?" "It appears to be a distress signal, Captain, but it is very primitive. The signal is using basic radio waves, not the standard quantum frequencies that civilized worlds use." Rena's large, diamond-shaped eyes grew brighter with curiosity. In all her years exploring space, she had never found a primitive species that was advanced enough to send signals into space but still used such old technology. "Where is it coming from?" Keth touched several controls and a star map appeared on the main screen. A red dot blinked in an area of space that was marked with warning symbols. "The signal comes from this system, Captain, but according to our database, that system contains a Class 12 death world." The bridge became very quiet. Every member of the crew knew what a Class 12 death world meant. It was the highest danger rating the Galactic Council used for planets. These worlds were so dangerous that most intelligent life could not survive there. The few species that did live on such worlds were usually violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. "To contact a Class 12, whispered Navigation Officer Vellon. "Captain, the regulations are very clear. We are not allowed to make contact with Death World species. They are too dangerous." Rena knew the rules well. The Galactic Council had made these laws after several bad experiences with aggressive species from dangerous worlds. Most Death World species were warlike and would attack anyone who came near their territory. But something about this signal made her curious. "Let me hear the signal," she said. Keth pressed a button, and strange sounds filled the bridge. At first it sounded like random noise, but as Rena listened carefully, she began to notice patterns. The signal contained mathematical sequences, simple counting patterns, and basic geometric shapes. Someone was trying to communicate using mathematics, the universal language. "This is not just a distress call," Rena said slowly. "Someone is trying to talk to us. They are using mathematics to show they are intelligent." Communications Officer Tane moved to his station and began working on the signal. "Captain, I can clean up the transmission. Give me a few minutes." While Tane worked, Rena thought about what to do. The rules said they should ignore any signals from Death Worlds and report them to the Council. But this signal was different. It showed intelligence and a desire to communicate. How could she ignore that? "Got it," Tane announced. The cleaned-up signal now played clearly through the bridge speakers. Along with the mathematical patterns, they could hear what sounded like voices in the background, urgent but not angry, working together instead of fighting. "Captain," said Medical Officer Nira, "these voices do not sound violent. They sound worried, like they need help." Rena made her decision. "Set course for that system. We will observe from a safe distance only. If these beings are truly intelligent, we should at least see what kind of help they need." "But, Captain," Veln protested, The regulations say we cannot make contact," Rena interrupted. "They do not say we cannot observe. We are scientists. Our job is to learn about new life, not to ignore it because we are afraid." The journey to the system took 18 hours. As they got closer, their sensors began picking up more information about the third planet where the signal was coming from. What they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp in shock. The planet was a nightmare. Massive storms covered half the surface, with winds that could tear apart most spaceships. The land was covered with active volcanoes that shot fire and poison gas into the air. The oceans were filled with huge creatures that could swallow a Villani whole. Even worse, the planet's weather changed very quickly. going from freezing cold to burning hot in just a few hours. How could anything live on that world? Asked Keth in amazement. But as their sensors got better readings, they discovered something incredible. Not only was there life on this horrible planet, but it was everywhere. Cities covered the land, connected by roads and bridges that somehow survived the terrible weather. Flying machines moved through the dangerous storms like they were normal. Ships sailed on the violent oceans as if the monster sea creatures were not even there. "This is impossible," whispered Nira. "No species should be able to live on a world like this, much less build a civilization." The distress signal was coming from a small structure in orbit around the planet. Their sensors showed it was some kind of space station, but it was very simple compared to Galactic Council technology. 2 life forms were inside, and their life signs were getting weaker. "Captain," Tane reported, "I am reading critical life support failure on that station. Those beings will die within hours if something is not done." Rena studied the readings carefully. The space station was primitive but showed clever engineering. Someone had built it using limited resources and basic technology, but they had made it work. The fact that this dangerous world had put people in space at all was amazing. "Look at this," Keth called out excitedly. He had been studying the planet's surface. "The entire planet is responding to this emergency. I am seeing activity at launch sites on 3 different continents. They are preparing some kind of rescue mission." On the main screen, they watched as the planet came alive with activity. Lights appeared at various locations across the surface. Strange flying machines began moving toward what looked like launch facilities. Most surprising of all, the different regions of the planet seemed to be working together, sharing information and resources. "This does not match anything in our files about Deathworld species," Nira said in wonder. "They are supposed to be violent and territorial, but these beings are cooperating across their entire planet to save just 2 individuals." Rena watched the activity on the planet's surface and made a decision that would change everything. "Tane, can you establish communication with them?" "Captain," Veln stood up from his station. "That would be direct contact with a Deathworld species. The Council will understand when they see our data," Rena said firmly. "We are witnessing something that has never been recorded before. A Deathworld species that works together instead of fighting. A civilization that risks everything to save 2 of their own. This is too important to ignore." Tane's hands moved quickly over his controls. "I can try, Captain, but their technology is very primitive. It will take time to find a frequency they can understand." "Do it," Rena ordered, "and everyone else, record everything. The galaxy needs to see this." As the Harmony's light moved closer to the dangerous system, none of the crew knew they were about to witness something that would change how the entire galaxy thought about Deathworld species. They were about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous worlds produce the most remarkable people. The morning sun rose over the launch facility in what the humans called South Korea, but Minho Lee had not seen it. He had been working for 36 hours straight, his hands moving quickly over the control panels of the makeshift rescue shuttle. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but he refused to rest while Jiho and Nari were still trapped in orbit. "Status report," called Dr. Somin Choi as she entered the engineering bay. She had been coordinating the rescue effort from Mission Control, managing resources from 12 different countries that had offered to help. Her voice was tired but determined. "The engines are ready," Minho replied, wiping sweat from his face. "But I had to use parts from 3 different spacecraft to make them work. The life support system is holding, but it was designed for military pilots, not a rescue mission to orbit." Somin nodded and checked her tablet. "The International Space Council has approved the mission. Daehyun Yang in Seoul is managing the communication networks. Every major space agency is sharing their tracking data with us." Outside the facility, massive screens showed the status of their friends trapped above. Commander Jiho Park and Dr. Nari Kim had been conducting experiments on humanity's first permanent space station when a small meteor had damaged their air recycling system. They had maybe 8 hours of oxygen left, and no other country had a spacecraft ready to launch in time. So the humans did what they always did when faced with an impossible problem. They improvised. "Minho," called a voice from across the engineering bay. Kyung Nam, their best test pilot, walked over carrying a modified spacesuit. "I've been working with the Russian team. They sent us better radiation shielding, and the Americans shared their newest navigation software. This suit can handle twice the normal radiation levels." "Good," Minho said. You're going to need it. The route to the station goes through a debris field that formed when that old satellite broke up last month. High above the planet, the Villani crew of the Harmony's Light watched all this activity with growing amazement. They had spent the last 12 hours observing the human response to the crisis, and everything they saw contradicted their knowledge about Deathworld species. Captain, Science Officer Keth reported, I have analyzed the global communication patterns. This species is coordinating resources from their entire planet for this rescue. Different tribal groups are sharing technology, expertise, and materials without any apparent territorial disputes. Captain Rena studied the data on her screens. In the past day, she had watched humans work in ways that seemed impossible. They did not stop to eat or sleep. They shared their most advanced technology with groups that their databases showed were sometimes enemies. Most incredible of all, hundreds of individuals had volunteered for a mission that had very low survival chances. Look at this, Communications Officer Tane said excitedly. I have been monitoring their transmissions. They are not just building one rescue craft. They have backup plans and backup plans for their backup plans. If the first rescue fails, they have 2 more spacecraft ready to launch within hours. Medical Officer Nira was studying the biological data they were collecting about the humans. Captain, these beings have been awake and working for over 30 hours. Most species would collapse from exhaustion, but their stress response is actually making them more focused and efficient. On the planet's surface, Hana Shin sat at her communications console in the Soul Control Center, trying to decode a strange signal that had appeared on their sensors. She was one of the world's best electronics experts, and she had never seen anything like this transmission. Daehyun, she called to her supervisor, we're getting some kind of interference on the long-range channels, but it's not random. There are patterns in it, almost like someone is trying to communicate. Daehyun Yang walked over to her station. He had been awake for 2 days straight, coordinating with space agencies around the world, but his mind was still sharp. What kind of patterns? Mathematical sequences, Hana replied, adjusting her equipment. And look at this. They're using the same basic mathematical principles we are, but their transmission method is completely different from anything we've ever built. Daehyun studied the data on Hana's screens. As one of the world's top communication specialists, he recognized something extraordinary when he saw it. Hana, I think someone is trying to talk to us, and they're not from Earth. Meanwhile, in the launch facility, final preparations were being made. Minho had finished installing the last modified component in the rescue shuttle. The spacecraft was a combination of technology from 6 different nations, held together by engineering skill and desperate hope. How does it look? Soman asked, as she reviewed the final systems check. Honestly, Minho said with a tired smile, this thing should not be able to fly. We're using a Korean engine, Russian navigation systems, American life support, Japanese electronics, German radiation shielding, and Chinese communication equipment. By all the laws of engineering, it should fall apart before it leaves the atmosphere. But, Soman prompted. But we built it to save our friends, Minho continued. And somehow, that seems to make all the difference. Every system is working perfectly, together. Kyung-nam finished putting on his spacesuit and walked toward the shuttle. If we're going to do this impossible thing, we better do it now. Jiho and Nari don't have much time left. As the rescue craft prepared for launch, Hana made a breakthrough with the strange signal. She had managed to clean it up enough to understand that someone was definitely trying to communicate. More than that, whoever was sending the signal seemed to be offering help. Daehyun, she called excitedly. I think I can establish 2-way communication, but you need to see this first. The signal is coming from somewhere in our solar system, but it's not from any human spacecraft. Daehyun looked at the data and felt his heart skip a beat. If Hana was right, then humanity was not alone in the universe, and whoever was out there had arrived just in time to see humans at their most desperate and most determined. Can you send a response? He asked. I think so, Hana replied. What should we tell them? Daehyun thought for a moment. The first message, from humanity to an alien species, would be remembered forever. What should it say? How could he explain that they were in the middle of a crisis, but still wanted to communicate? Tell them who we are, he said finally. Tell them we are humans, and we are trying to save our friends. And tell them that if they want to help, They are welcome. Hana's fingers moved quickly over her keyboard, translating Daehyun's words into the mathematical language that the aliens seemed to understand. As she sent the message, she wondered what kind of response they would get. High above, Captain Rena received the human transmission and felt something she had never experienced before. The message was simple and direct. The humans identified themselves, explained their situation, and invited the aliens to help, all without any fear or suspicion. "They are asking for our assistance," Tane reported, his voice filled with wonder. "A Deathworld species is asking aliens for help instead of attacking us." "Captain," Keth added, "their rescue mission launches in 30 minutes. If we are going to help, we need to decide now." Rena looked around at her crew. Every one of them was watching her, waiting for her decision. The regulations were clear: no contact with Deathworld species. But the regulations had been written based on the assumption that all such species were violent and dangerous. These humans had spent 2 days working together to save 2 of their people. They had shared their most advanced technology with former enemies. They had welcomed alien contact with curiosity instead of fear. They were nothing like what the regulations described. "Tane," Rena said finally, "send them our medical data. If their friends are suffering from oxygen deprivation, our atmospheric analysis might help them plan their rescue mission." "Captain," Velen protested weakly, "the Council will not approve." "Then the Council will learn something new today," Rena replied, "just like we are." As the human rescue shuttle prepared for launch and the Volani ship moved closer to offer assistance, both species were about to discover that sometimes the most important rules were the ones that needed to be broken. The rescue shuttle Hope's flight lifted off from the launch pad with a roar that shook the ground for miles around. Kyung-nam felt the powerful engines push him back into his pilot seat as the spacecraft climbed through Earth's atmosphere. The seat beside him, Minho monitored the systems he had spent 2 days building from spare parts. "All systems are green," Minho reported through the radio to Mission Control. "The alien data about atmospheric pressure changes is helping us navigate through the upper atmosphere more efficiently than our original calculations predicted." On the ground, Daehyun Yang coordinated the mission from the main control room, while Hana Shin maintained contact with the mysterious alien ship. The Volani had been sharing technical information for the past hour, and their advice had already improved the rescue mission's chances of success. "Hope's flight, you are approaching the debris field," Soman's voice crackled through the radio from her position at the medical station. "The alien sensors are showing you a safer path through the wreckage. Follow the course correction data. We're sending now." High above Earth, Commander Jiho Park was trying to stay conscious while Dr. Nari Kim checked their remaining oxygen supply. The small space station was getting colder as its power systems failed one by one. Through the small window, Jiho could see their home planet far below, looking beautiful and peaceful, despite all the dangers he knew existed on its surface. "Nari," he said weakly, "can you see that bright spot moving up from the planet?" "I think that's our ride." Nari floated over to the window and looked down. Sure enough, a small bright point was rising through the atmosphere toward them. "Jiho, I think we're going to make it home." But their problems were far from over. As Hope's flight approached the space station, Kyung discovered that the debris field was worse than anyone had expected. Pieces of broken satellites and old rocket parts filled the space around the station like a deadly cloud of metal fragments. "Mission Control," Kyung reported. "The debris field is too thick. I can't get close enough to dock with the station without hitting something." On the alien ship Harmony's Light, Captain Rena watched the human rescue attempt with growing concern. Her sensors could see dangers that the primitive human equipment could not detect. A large piece of space debris was drifting toward the space station, and it would hit in less than 20 minutes. "Tane," she ordered, "can we use our tractor beam to move that debris away from their station?" "Yes, Captain," Tane replied, "but using our technology to directly help them would be full contact with a Deathworld species. The Council is not here," Rena said firmly. "2 intelligent beings are about to die, and we can prevent it." "Do it." The Volani ship's invisible tractor beam reached out and gently pushed the dangerous debris away from the space station. On Earth, Hana's sensors picked up the energy signature immediately. "Daehyun," she called excitedly, The aliens just moved that big piece of wreckage that was heading for the station. They saved Jiho and Nari from a collision they didn't even know was coming. Meanwhile, Kyung was still trying to navigate through the debris field when disaster struck. A micrometeorite, no bigger than a grain of sand but moving at incredible speed, punched through the shuttle's hull. Alarms began screaming as the cabin pressure dropped rapidly. "Hull breach!" Minho shouted, unbuckling himself from his seat. "I need to patch it from the outside." "Minho, no!" Kyung called back. "It's too dangerous!" But Minho was already putting on his emergency spacesuit. "Kyung, if we don't fix this hole, we'll lose pressure before we can reach the station. And if we can't reach the station, Jiho and Nari die." Within minutes, Minho was outside the shuttle in the vacuum of space, wielding a plasma torch to seal the hull breach. The Villani crew watched in amazement as he worked calmly in conditions that would terrify most spacefaring species. "Captain," Medical Officer Nira reported, "that human is performing repairs in open space with primitive equipment. The radiation levels out there would kill most species within minutes, but he is working as if it was routine maintenance." "How is that possible?" asked Science Officer Keth. "They evolved on a death world," Rena replied with growing respect. "What we consider deadly dangers, they probably consider normal working conditions." Minho finished the repair and climbed back into the shuttle, but their troubles were not over. When they finally reached the space station, they discovered that Commander Jiho had collapsed from oxygen deprivation. Dr. Nari was barely conscious and could not help with the docking procedure. "I can't dock with the station if nobody there can operate their systems," Kyung reported to Mission Control. On the ground, Somin had an idea. "Kyung, what if you don't dock? What if you just get close enough for Minho to spacewalk over to the station?" "That's incredibly dangerous," Daehyun's voice came over the radio. "The station is spinning slowly. If Minho misses his jump—" "Then I don't miss," Minho's voice cut in firmly. "Somin, talk me through what I need to do to get them out of there. What happened next would be talked about in both human and alien records for years to come." Minho, using only basic spacesuit thrusters and his own courage, jumped across empty space from the rescue shuttle to the spinning space station. The Villani crew watched with amazement as he caught hold of the station's docking port on his first try. "Impossible," whispered Navigation Officer Vellon. "The calculations required for that maneuver. How did he do it so easily?" "He didn't calculate it," Captain Rena realized. "He felt it. These humans have developed instincts for surviving in impossible situations." Inside the station, Minho found both Jiho and Nari unconscious, but alive. He quickly connected portable oxygen supplies to their suits and began the process of moving them to the rescue shuttle. But as he worked, the station's orbit began to decay rapidly. "Mission Control," Minho reported. "The station is losing altitude fast. If we don't leave in the next 10 minutes, we're all going to burn up in the atmosphere. That's when the space station's computer systems failed completely. The automatic systems that controlled life support, navigation, and communication all went offline at once. They were trapped on a dying station that was falling toward Earth." On the ground, Daehyun made a decision that shocked everyone in Mission Control. "All stations, this is Mission Control. We are going to boost our communication signal to maximum power. This will overload our power grid and cause blackouts across the country, but it will give Minho enough signal strength to control the station's emergency systems remotely." "Sir," one of his technicians protested, "if we blow the power grid, millions of people will be without electricity during winter. The government will never approve." "Then we don't ask for approval," Daehyun replied calmly. "We do what needs to be done to bring our people home." The Villani crew watched in stunned silence as the humans deliberately sacrificed their planet's power infrastructure to boost a single communication signal. Across the night side of Earth, cities went dark as power stations shut down to redirect all available energy to the rescue mission. "Captain," Tane reported, his voice filled with awe, "they just turned off power to half their planet to save 3 people. "Not just 3 people," Rena corrected softly. "They're saving the principle that no one gets left behind. That's worth any sacrifice to them." The boosted signal reached the space station just in time. Minho was able to use the emergency systems to stabilize their orbit long enough to transfer Jiho and Nari to the rescue shuttle. As Hope's flight began its journey back to Earth with all three humans safely aboard, cities around the world began turning their lights back on. But the mission wasn't over yet. During re-entry, the shuttle's heat shield began to fail. The combination of jury-rigged parts and battle damage from the debris field was finally taking its toll. If something wasn't done quickly, the shuttle would burn up in the atmosphere. That's when Captain Rena made a decision that would change galactic history. "Tane," she ordered, "lock our tractor beam onto that shuttle and guide it to a safe landing." "Captain," Veln protested, "that is direct intervention in the affairs of a primitive species. The Council will charge us with—" "The Council will learn something today," Rena replied. "They will learn what happens when you judge a species by their world instead of by their actions." The Volani ship's tractor beam caught the falling shuttle and guided it gently through Earth's atmosphere to a safe landing at the recovery site. As the shuttle touched down and rescue teams rushed forward to help the returning heroes, both species realized that something remarkable had just happened. Humans had shown that Deathworld species could be cooperative, innovative, and selfless. The Volani had shown that advanced civilizations could choose compassion over regulation. Together, they had saved 3 lives and started a friendship that would reshape the galaxy. 3 days after the successful rescue mission, Captain Rena stood at the edge of what humans called a landing field near the city of Sol. The Harmony's light had landed on Earth's surface for the first time, its crystalline hull reflecting the morning sunlight in brilliant rainbows. Around the ship, hundreds of humans had gathered to welcome their alien visitors. Rena had expected fear or aggression from a Deathworld species when they saw an alien ship. Instead, the humans had prepared what they called a celebration. Children held colorful banners with mathematical symbols and pictures of friendship. Scientists waited with gifts of Earth's music, art, and scientific data to share with their alien guests. "Captain," Communications Officer Tane said softly beside her, "I have never seen anything like this in all our records of first contact with primitive species." Dr. Yuna Park, Commander Jiho's sister, approached the group of Volani with a warm smile. She carried a small device that Hana Shin had built overnight, a translation computer that could convert human speech into the mathematical language the Volani used for communication. "Welcome to Earth," Yuna said, her words appearing as glowing symbols in the air above the translation device. "We cannot thank you enough for helping us save my brother and Dr. Nari." Rena responded in her own language, and the device translated her musical tones into human speech. "We are honored to meet your species, Dr. Park. Your people have shown us that everything we thought we knew about Deathworld civilizations was wrong." As they walked toward the research facility that had been prepared for the meeting, Rena found herself amazed by everything she saw. The humans had built their cities to work with their dangerous planet instead of fighting against it. Buildings swayed with earthquake movements instead of breaking. Flood channels directed dangerous water away from populated areas. Even their transportation systems were designed to work during storms and disasters. "Dr. Park," Rena asked, "how do your people stay so calm living on such a dangerous world?" Yuna laughed, a sound that the Volani found surprisingly musical. "Dangerous? Captain Rena, we don't think of Earth as dangerous. We think of it as home. Yes, we have earthquakes and storms and wild animals, but we also have beautiful sunsets, clean water, and millions of different kinds of life. Every challenge our world gives us just makes us stronger and smarter." Inside the research facility, Rena met more humans who completely changed her understanding of Deathworld species. Taijin Ko, a physicist, showed her mathematical theories that perfectly matched Volani science, even though humans had developed them independently. His excitement about learning alien mathematics was infectious, and soon he and Science Officer Keth were working together on equations that neither species could solve alone. "This is remarkable," Keth told Rena privately. "Their mathematical principles are as advanced as ours in some areas and more creative in others. How is this possible for a species that has barely reached space?" "Because," Rena was beginning to understand, "living on a death world forces them to solve problems that peaceful worlds never face. They have to be innovative to survive." Jiwon, CO, the human communications expert, worked with Tane to establish contact with the Galactic Council. What should have taken months of careful diplomatic preparation, Jiwon accomplished in hours. She learned the basic structure of galactic communication protocols faster than most species learned their own technology. Your species adapts remarkably, quickly, Tane observed, as Jiwon successfully connected to the galactic network on her first attempt. We have to, Jiwon replied with a smile. On Earth, things change fast. Weather, disasters, predators. If we can't adapt quickly, we don't survive. But that makes us very good at learning new things. Meanwhile, Seung-ho Bae, a former military strategist who now worked in diplomacy, was discussing galactic politics with Captain Rena. His questions showed a deep understanding of the challenges facing different species, and his suggested solutions impressed even the experienced Vallani captain. Mr. Bae, Rena said, you speak of balancing the needs of different worlds as if you had been studying galactic civilization for years. Yet you learned about us only 3 days ago. Seung-ho considered this carefully. Captain Rena, on Earth, we have almost 200 different nations, thousands of different cultures, and people who speak hundreds of languages. We have learned that the only way to survive is to find ways for everyone to work together, even when they are very different from each other. I think the galaxy faces the same challenge, just on a bigger scale. But the most surprising discovery came when Medical Officer Nira examined the humans who had volunteered for dangerous parts of the rescue mission. Her scans showed that their bodies were different from any species the Vallani had ever encountered. Captain, Nira reported privately, these humans are biologically adapted to survive in extreme conditions. Their bones are denser than most species, their muscles more efficient, their healing faster, and their stress response actually improves their mental abilities instead of harming them. What does that mean? Rena asked. It means that everything we thought we knew about the effects of Deathworld environments is wrong, Nira explained. We assumed that dangerous worlds create violent, primitive species. But these humans show that dangerous worlds can create species that are stronger, smarter, and more cooperative than peaceful worlds produce. As the day continued, the cultural exchange revealed even more surprises. The humans showed their alien guests examples of their entertainment. Movies about heroes who sacrificed themselves for others, music that celebrated working together, sports where the greatest victories came from teamwork under pressure. Captain, Science Officer Keth said quietly, their entire culture is built around the ideas that help them survive on their dangerous world. They celebrate cooperation, innovation, courage, and protecting others. These are not the values of a primitive species. The most shocking moment came when Dr. Unipark casually mentioned her current research project. She was developing ways to help plants grow in environments similar to the Vallani homeworld, research that could solve food shortage problems that had plagued the Vallani for centuries. Dr. Park, Rena asked carefully, why are you researching environments like our homeworld? Because, Una replied simply, if we're going to be friends with people from different worlds, we should learn how to help each other. Maybe someday Vallani scientists could help us understand our ocean currents better, and we could help you develop new farming techniques. Rena felt something she had never experienced before, a sense of hope that she hadn't even known she was missing. For thousands of years, the Vallani had lived peaceful but unchanging lives. They had advanced technology, but they had stopped growing, stopped learning new things, stopped facing challenges that made them stronger. These humans, living on their dangerous world, had never stopped growing. Every challenge made them more innovative. Every disaster taught them to work better together. Every threat made them more determined to protect each other and help their friends. Tane, Rena said as the day of cultural exchange came to an end, send a full report to the Galactic Council. Tell them that we have discovered a Deathworld species that is peaceful, cooperative, highly intelligent, and eager to join galactic civilization. Captain, Tane replied, the Council has very strong opinions about Deathworld species. They may not believe our reports. Then we will show them the recordings, Rena said firmly. We will show them humans working for days without rest to save 2 people. We will show them a planet that turned off its power grid to boost a rescue signal. We will show them a species that greets first contact with aliens by offering friendship and help. As the Vallani prepared to return to their ship, Commander Jiho Park, now recovered from his ordeal in space, approached Captain Rena with a small gift, a photo of Earth taken from the space station where he and Dr. Nari had been trapped. Captain Rena, he said through the translation device, this is what our world looks like from space. I know it seems dangerous to you, but to us, it's the most beautiful place in the universe. Thank you for helping us get home to it. Rena accepted the gift and studied the image of the blue and white planet. For the first time, she tried to see it not as a deadly death world, but as the home that had shaped these remarkable people. Commander Park, she replied, thank you for showing us that home isn't just a place you live. It's a place that makes you who you are. Your dangerous world has made you into something wonderful. As the Harmony's light prepared to leave Earth and carry news of humanity to the Galactic Council, both species knew that this was just the beginning of something that would change the galaxy forever. 6 months after first contact, the great assembly hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the crystal dome structure that orbited the galaxy's center. For the first time in over 1,000 years, they were debating whether to accept a new species from a death world into their civilization. Captain Rena stood at the center of the hall, her crystalline body reflecting the lights of the chamber as she prepared to present humanity's case. Around her, alien delegates whispered in dozens of languages, their voices creating a symphony of doubt and curiosity. Honored Council, Rena began, her musical voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. 6 months ago, I believed as you do now. I believed that Deathworld species were violent, primitive, and dangerous. I was wrong. On the great screens around the hall, images from Earth appeared. The Council watched footage of the rescue mission that had started everything. Humans working, without rest, sharing technology across national boundaries, sacrificing their planet's power grid to save 3 people. High Counselor Thane, a tall being with silver skin and 4 eyes, spoke from the main platform. Captain Rena, these images are impressive, but one rescue mission does not prove that an entire species is ready for galactic civilization. How do we know these humans will not become violent when they encounter other species? Before Rena could answer, a new voice filled the hall. Because, the voice said in perfect galactic standard language, we have already met other species, and we chose friendship over fear. The council delegates turned in surprise to see a group of humans entering the assembly hall. Dr. Yuna Park led the group, followed by Jiwon Seo, Taejin Ko, and Seungho Bai. Behind them walked Commander Jiho, Park, and Dr. Nari Kim, the 2 humans whose rescue had brought their species to galactic attention. How did they get here? Whispered Counselor Vren, a blue-skinned delegate from the peaceful Rim worlds. They built their own starship, Rena replied with pride in her voice. In 6 months, using a combination of their technology and information we shared with them, they developed faster-than-light travel and came here to speak for themselves. The human delegation approached the center of the hall. Dr. Yuna Park activated a translation device that projected her words in light patterns that every species in the council could understand. Honored delegates, she began, we come before you not as conquerors from a death world, but as potential friends from a world that taught us to value cooperation over conflict. We know that our planet frightens you, but we want to show you what it has given us. Taejin Ko stepped forward and activated a holographic display. Our world forced us to become innovators. When earthquakes destroyed our cities, we learned to build structures that bend instead of break. When storms threatened our people, we learned to predict weather patterns with incredible accuracy. When diseases challenged us, we developed medicine that can work in the harshest conditions. The holographic display showed human achievements that amazed the Council. Buildings that could withstand disasters that would destroy most galactic architecture, weather prediction systems more accurate than anything the Council had ever seen, medical techniques that could save lives in conditions where most galactic medicine would fail. Counselor Thane studied the displays with growing interest. These innovations are impressive, but what assurance do we have that you will use them to help other species rather than dominate them? Seungho Bai answered that question. Honored Counselor, we would like to make an offer to the Council. We propose to establish the Galactic Emergency Response Corps, headquartered on Earth and staffed by volunteers from any species that wishes to join. Our purpose would be to provide rescue and disaster relief services to any world that needs help. The hall erupted in surprised conversation. Emergency response was something the Galactic Council had never been able to organize effectively. Most species were too fragile to work in dangerous conditions, and their technology was not designed for disaster situations. Jiwan Seo continued the presentation. We have already identified 17 extinct civilizations in your historical records that died from natural disasters or accidents. Our analysis shows that 15 of those civilizations could have been saved if proper rescue technology and techniques had been available. Furthermore, Dr. Nari Kim added, we believe that many of the species you classify as extinct from Deathworlds are actually still alive. They may be surviving on their dangerous planets but unable to develop space travel because they spend all their resources on survival. We propose joint exploration missions to find these lost civilizations and help them join the galactic community. Commander Jiho stepped forward for the final part of their presentation. 6 months ago, Captain Rena and her crew saved my life, and Dr. Nari's life by choosing to help instead of following regulations that told them to stay away. Today, we ask you to make the same choice for our entire species. Judge us not by our world, but by our actions. The Great Hall fell silent as the council delegates considered the human proposal. For over an hour, they debated in their various languages while the humans waited patiently. Finally, High Counselor Thane called for order. The council has reached a decision. However, before we announce it, we must address a discovery that Captain Rena's research has revealed. New images appeared on the great screens, data analysis from thousands of years of galactic history. Our archives show that over the past 10,000 years, 67% of major technological advances, 73% of artistic breakthroughs, and 81% of successful diplomatic solutions to interspecies conflicts came from species that originated on worlds we classified as dangerous or higher. The implication hit the Council like a shockwave. Their greatest achievements had come from species they had been systematically avoiding or excluding. It appears, High Counselor Thane continued, that we have been making a fundamental error. We assumed that peaceful worlds produce the most advanced civilizations. But the evidence suggests that challenging worlds produce species with the innovation, cooperation, and determination needed for true advancement. Dr. Unipark felt her heart racing as the High Counselor continued. Therefore, the Galactic Council not only accepts humanity as a full member species, but we also authorize the immediate revision of our contact protocols regarding Deathworld civilizations. Captain Rena will lead a new department dedicated to finding and assisting species from dangerous worlds. The hall erupted in cheers from hundreds of species, but High Counselor Thane raised his hand for silence. There is more. The Council formally requests that Earth serve as the headquarters for the new Galactic Emergency Response Corps. We believe that a species trained by surviving on a death world is exactly what we need to help other civilizations facing disasters. 6 months later, the first class of Galactic Emergency Response Corps trainees arrived on Earth. The group included young volunteers from 43 different species, all eager to learn from humanity's experts in disaster response and rescue operations. Minho Lee, now director of the Corps' engineering division, welcomed the new trainees at the same launch facility where the rescue mission had begun. "Welcome to Earth," he said as his words were translated into dozens of languages. "You're here to learn how to save lives in impossible situations. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it." Kyung Nam, who had become the Corps' chief pilot trainer, added, "On Earth, we have a saying, no one gets left behind. That's not just a rule for us, it's who we are. By the time you leave here, it will be who you are too." In orbit above Earth, a new space station served as the headquarters for Galactic Rescue Operations. Commander Jiho Park, now Director of Space Operations, coordinated missions across the galaxy from the same type of facility where his own rescue had begun. Hana Shin, who had become Earth's Chief Communications Officer for Galactic Affairs, maintained contact with hundreds of worlds, coordinating the search for lost Deathworld civilizations. And on dozens of dangerous worlds throughout the galaxy, new civilizations were being contacted and welcomed into the galactic community for the first time. Species that had been struggling alone on their hostile planets for thousands of years suddenly found themselves part of a community that valued their strength, their innovation, and their determination. Dr. Una Park stood in her laboratory, now the center of interspecies medical research, working with alien colleagues to develop treatments that could work on any world, no matter how dangerous. Through her window, she could see the bustling spaceport, where ships from across the galaxy arrived daily. A year ago, humanity had been alone, struggling to build their first space station. Now they were teachers, rescuers, and friends to hundreds of species. Their dangerous world had not made them violent or primitive. It had prepared them to be exactly what the galaxy needed. As she worked, Una remembered Captain Rena's words. From that first meeting, "Your dangerous world has made you into something wonderful." Looking out at the starships from distant worlds and the alien friends working alongside humans, Una smiled. Earth had indeed made them